Are the dolls in your dollhouse wanting some donuts for Sunday morning breakfast? Or does Barbie want some donuts? Or maybe you have an 18-inch doll like an American Girl doll and she wants a donut. Well, stay tuned and I'll show you how to make some really yummy looking donuts. Alright, so to make donuts, or to make any food, it's a good idea to either have really good pictures or the real thing in front of you. And since I had to get groceries yesterday, I picked up a couple of donuts. I picked up a maple bar and I picked up one glazed donut. This way, I've got good models. I've got something I can measure with my ruler and I can see how big they are. And I found that the donut was about 3.5 to 4 inches across in diameter. I found the maple bar was 2.5 inches across and about 5 inches long. So that gives me a standard to work from. I also found they're about 1 inch tall. Okay, I've got a good color reference here. I can see how they're browned. I can see that there's a lighter space in the middle and it's kind of indented. You find out a lot of things by looking at the real thing. I have the color for the maple frosting. I have the color for chocolate frosting. So this gives me lots of information. So I'm going to cover these up and put them off to the side. And of course it also gives me a snack later or maybe breakfast tomorrow if I can wait that long. We'll just have to see. Alright, and my clay today, this is not my ideal color for this. This is a beigey color, but it's a little more brown or flesh tone that I would like. I would rather it be a little yellow. But I had a huge chunk of this left from another project, so I'm just going to use it up. It'll do. We'll make it work today. So I've dusted my surface that I'm working on with just some cornstarch. And I'm dusting my hands too. Especially important with this clay. This is a really soft clay. Really soft clay picks up fingerprints much easier, as you can see. I think the camera's probably picking that up. The cornstarch helps that a little. And most of the surface on the top of these will be covered by our frosting anyway. So let's start with a 1/12 scale donut. Well, if the real one was 3 to 3.5, almost 4 inches, and donuts vary. When I looked in the donut case at the grocery store, they weren't all the same size. There were smaller ones, there were bigger ones, because they're not perfect. So I've got a little ball of my clay here, and I'm going to see how big it is. I've got my ruler laying here. We want something that's between 1/4 and about 3/8 of an inch at the biggest, probably. I don't want to go too much bigger than that. I'm going to go flatter first. See how big this gets. This might be too big. We'll see. I think this is going to be, that's going to be too big. So let's take off some clay until we get to the size. And this is the first one. It's going to take you a while, and then you'll see what size you need to go. Poke a hole in it. Always poke the hole in before you measure, because that's going to flatten it out just a little bit more than what you had before. And that's good. That'll work. That's actually about 3/8 of an inch. That'll be fine. So, see if I can make one more that size, and then we'll go on to our next scale. Let's see, is that going to be about? That's going to be too big. My clay is getting really dried out here, and that's about right. So we'll move on and make some 1/6 scale now, and then I'll come back when I'm all done showing you how to do the donuts. I'll come back and make more off camera. So let's make a 1/6 scale. Now, if you haven't watched, if you don't understand the term scale, I do have some videos on this channel about scales and talks about what that means. So if you don't understand the term, go ahead and go back and watch those too. It would be a good thing to learn about. Okay. This one I'm taking a slightly larger ball stylus. And, yeah, but I don't like the hole in it. It's too big a hole. So let's make a ball again. And like I said, the first couple you do are going to be like that. You're gonna experiment. You're going to say, oh, well, yeah, I like that, but I don't like this about it. That's the right size, but maybe I need to use something else to make the hole. There, that looks better. Let's see how that is. And that's a good size. It's a little on the small side, but not too small. So let's see if I can do one more like that. Then we'll go even bigger. Today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to show you 1/3 scale today too, which I don't normally work in, but I have been the last couple of days. Okay. So there, now Barbie has, that's 2 Barbie-sized donuts. All right, now we're going to do a 1/3 scale donut. 1/3 scale is the size that you would use probably for an American Girl doll or those type of dolls, the 18-inch dolls. There's several different, I know several different brands of dolls in the 18-inch doll family. And this one, let's see, I think this is going to be too big. Let's see, yeah, might be just about right. Let's start with this one. Make a hole. And go. Alright, and that's a good size for American Girl doll. It's about 1 1/4 inches. So let's get these colored, get the chalk on them, and then then we'll make some maple bars. So, let me get my baking surface. If you've watched my videos, you know I almost always bake on a paper plate. I'm going to color the bottom sides first. And it's easy to tell which is the bottom because the holes aren't as big. If that bothers you, in fact, let's go ahead and make a hole down through there. And get the hole through it. Alright, let's start with this. And I'm actually just going to put my chalk on the tray here because I'm going to need to color a lot. I'm making quite a few more donuts off camera. So my favorite tool for this is an eyeshadow brush. And again, I got this at Dollar Tree. Now, we're going to color the whole donut with this yellow ochre or golden yellow color. Always start with your lightest color first. See, this one's taking quite a bit because it's a lot bigger piece. And it's okay if they split because you'll see that in the real donuts too. Sometimes they'll split as they're rising. So that's okay. And if you get a finger hole mark in the top, it's okay because the top's going to be covered by, you can cover that one with frosting on the top. And if you wanted to make donut holes, just make little balls about the size of a little bit bigger than the holes in your donuts. Now we've got that color, so now we need to go a little bit darker. So we'll try this one. Now this color, we're going to put on the top and bottom, but not so much on the sides. It's a little bit red, but that's okay, because it blends in really well with the next color we're going to use. And the secret to getting it to look cooked is to layer these chalk colors. Okay, now let's go with this one. Where did I put it? There's my knife. And again, I don't use my clay blade to do chalk. I use a craft knife because I don't want to get that on my clay blade. I might accidentally cut clay later and ruin a project. Oops. I'm very carefully working on this off camera again. Now, another little, especially on the bigger size donuts, notice a real donut has a little bit of a crease around. We'll work that around too. Something much smaller on the smaller size. Really quickly get these done. This one, let's see my other smaller tool. Use the back side of this. Just need something, this will be even better. This will be better. Need to get just a little bit of a crease. Probably should have done this before I colored the chalk on. Anyway, you get the idea there. So let's see if we can make, to make a maple bar, we're going to start out with a little ball of clay. Let's cut a small little piece, like a ball. Kind of a little snake with kind of rounded ends. Let's see how this looks. That's about a 1/2 inch by about a 1/4 inch. It's a little large, but it will probably do for one. Probably should have a little smaller than that, so let's go a little smaller. See where this size ball goes. That's better. So that's about the size for our little maple bars. And for these, again, we'll put a little ridge in the middle, because they always puff up a little more on the top and bottom when they're baking, when they're cooking in the oil. There. That's our maple bar. Let's do a Barbie size. Barbie size is about 3/4 of an inch long. So let's go with about this size ball. A little bit longer ball. Make a little, so make a ball. Then make a little like flat oval shape. And flatten it out. And it's about 3/4 of an inch. Perfect. Alright, so that's our Barbie size one. And again, we'll go around, kind of make a little dent in the side. Because when a real donut rises, it kind of puffs on the top and the bottom as it cooks in the oil. Now we'll make a American Girl size one. This one is bigger. So we need more clay. This one needs to be about 1.5 inches long by about 3/4 of an inch across. And that's not big enough. Let's get a ball of clay. See if I can guess this one on the first try. Not quite. It needs a little more clay. Roll it out. And that's about the right size. A little flatter than I would like. So let's try it again. Got our kind of our oblong log shape here. Smooth out the ends, flatten it out, and that's about the right size, about the right thickness too. So that's our third scale. So I'll make more of these off camera, and when I get these all made and baked, I'll come back and I'll show you how to frost them. So here's all the donuts and maple bar things I made. And I made, like I said earlier, we made the 3 scales, the 1/6, the 1/12, and the 1/3. So now it's time to frost them. I'm going to frost some and put sprinkles on them, and some of them I'll just leave plain. Let's see, I think we'll use these two. I've got chocolate, and I know a lot of people frost with things like the liquid polymer clays mixed with either clay or chalk or paint. And I think that works great for cakes. Personally, for things like the donuts, I really prefer to use these fabric paints. They're called Scribbles 3D paint. Hot chocolate and butterscotch. Hot chocolate makes a great chocolate like glaze frosting, like glaze like you find on a donut, and butterscotch makes a pretty good maple. It also works for caramel if you're making ice cream. So let's start with a donut. I'm going to put just a little bit on, and I'm starting with a Barbie size one here. See, good back there. And let's do a 1/12. You see, it's as simple as that. And while this is still wet, we can add sprinkles. Now for 1/12 scale, I don't like to use the little beads. I like to use colored sand. And what I've got here is I went through my sand, and I picked up a variety of colors, and they're kind of mixed together. And I'll just sprinkle that on. Because if you go much bigger than that, it looks pretty big for the dolls to eat. Now in the bigger scales, like the 1/6 scale, and again in the 1/3, you can use these no-hole beads. I've got these. I've got a lot of colors of these. And let's just get a few red ones out. And sprinkle on that one. And what I've done here, notice I've got painter's tape, sticky side up, and then taped at each end, so my donuts will all stay put, so that I can work on them. It makes it a lot easier to work if you've got your donuts kind of anchored down. Let's get a few little kind of blue ones on there. Whoopsie. I missed. But you get the idea. And let's do, put the lid back on this one, and just work one donut at a time and go through. Let's do a maple bar. And then I'll move over to the bigger size. Come on. There we go. And let this sit until it's completely dry. Don't be messing with it. Don't be touching it or you'll get fingerprints in it. And you can kind of use the tip of the tube to encourage it to run off the sides if you want to. There, we've got maple. Well, I've got this. Let's shake this up. It's not cooperating entirely. There we go. Let's get a big one. There. And let's do a chocolate and put some sprinkles on one of these big donuts. And then I've got something else I'll show you. It's kind of fun. And you can put it on a little thicker on the larger scale than what you would on the smaller scale. Kind of encourage it to drop off the sides. Let's go a little farther down on the sides here. And these paints are only, I think they're about $2 a bottle, and they last a long time. I use those on a lot of things. Let's see if we can drop just a few. Sprinkles on this one. Oops. And these are a really good size on the 1/3 scale. Much better on 1/3 than they are on the even on the Barbie. And to me, they always look way out of scale when they're used on 1/12 because they just don't look right. Let's try that up. Should have some white ones. I've got 2 packages of these little micro beads, and I can't find my other package, and that's where the white ones are, of course. But you get the idea. So let's do. Well, I've also got white. Let's do some winter white on. I don't. Oh, this is a new one. This one is still sealed. My goodness, this is a brand new package. Let's see if I can get the white paint open. I didn't realize I had a new one here. I kind of remember last time I went to use this I didn't have white, so I must have bought a new one. Okay. Okay. So first, let's do a chocolate frosting. And you could do this on a maple bar too. Sometimes they have chocolate ones too, not just maple flavored. So. Okay. Now, make sure the white's going to come out. You can do all kinds of things with your donuts. So I will go ahead and frost some more of these, and then I'll come back and show you how they look when they're done. Well, I dug out some red paint too, and I did a donut with red stripes and red sprinkles on it, and I think these look yummy. Next, let's work on something to put these donuts into. Let me get set up for that, and I'll be right back. All right, I have donut boxes here, and I'll show you how to make one in a second. These are from jimsprintminis.com. The link is in the description box. I decided to do these because anybody can do them. You know, you can print them off really easy, and I'll talk to you a little bit. But this is 1/12 scale, 1/6, and I created a 1/3 scale from his site. His site has these two, and all I did for this one is I simply, on a word processing program, I pasted the image on, and I just stretched it out so it was exactly twice as big, and you get the 1/3 scale. And so let me get my blank one, my flat one ready, and I will show you how to build this. All right, now I'm using the 1/3 scale simply because it's easier to see what I'm doing when I'm filming this scale. So I've printed it out and I've cut it out so it's the only thing here. This is on cardstock. I bought white cardstock in the scrapbooking or card making department at my local craft store. It's not very expensive. If you try to make the boxes out of just plain printer paper, they're not going to turn out. They're not going to be sturdy enough. So the first thing we need to do is score, and I always score before I cut out. Simply, especially on the smaller scales, these tabs are really fragile. It's really easy to tear them off if you try to score after you cut out. So, and I like to score all the way across. This is my favorite scoring tool. It's a dental pick. I got it in a set of dental tools at Dollar Tree like many years ago, and I use it all the time. It works great for scoring. Scoring means we're breaking this top surface. And I'll show you some other, how to assemble other printable type paper minis another day, but this one is just a real quickie. And since I'm almost to the edge, I like to turn around and do from here. Now on this particular donut box, you need to be careful because this line and this line are both fold lines. They don't line up, so you need to be careful. It's real obvious on this size. You get into the smaller scales, it's not as obvious. And then I stop. Now, go here. Now I like to fold. I can't do these two folds, these folds here, because I would be folding things I don't want to fold, but I can fold everything the other direction. I like to do that before the next step. It's just nicer to do it while it's whole. Now I want to cut this window out. Again, it's easier and safer to do it now. So I'm going to cut, I like to cut a hole to work from. Then I cut into, from my hole, I cut into all four corners. You're going to take this out in little, I prefer to take this out in little small pieces. I don't want to take it out all at once. It's a good way to make a mess. Now, I'm going to come in, and I'm going to figure out a way to get to this where I'm not... It's okay if we don't get right up to the line the first time. We can come back. And I'm always cutting towards the corner if I can. And I go back and get this part. I'm going to cut this in half. Or not really half, but close to half. Fold that out of my way and start cutting. Try to stay right on the line. And turn and cut this. And you do the smaller scales just exactly this way. They work the same way. It's just easier to see what I'm doing here. My fingers don't get completely in the way of the camera. And I love these little tiny scissors for small details. I use these a lot. And some people prefer to use a knife and a straight edge on a cutting mat for doing their cutting, and I do sometimes, but I really find, for me, a combination of different types of scissors work better. Alright, we've got that part. Now we're going to cut out. I'm going to move to a slightly bigger pair of scissors to do my first part of my cutting. I'm going to start by cutting this all even with this tab. And I kind of cut in stages. I work my page down. I don't like to cut right along all the lines right away. This way I find by working in small bits like this, I can be a lot more accurate. Now if I get that far, now I like to cut all of these that go in. Now that I've got this, now I can't do it yet. I've got, as soon as I get this one cut, now I can fold on this score line and this one. So I'll get over here. And as soon as I get this one cut, now I can fold that and this. And it takes a little longer to do it this way, but by doing it this way, I don't cut off things I'm not supposed to. And I can be a lot more accurate and careful. I think that's the biggest mistake people make. Oops, I missed one. When they're trying to cut out their printable minis or their paper minis, is they try to rush. They try to just get it cut out really fast. They try to score with a knife and they cut off tabs. Scoring with a knife does not work very well because it's too easy to cut through. By using the dental tool, you can't cut through. It just scores. There. And then we'll cut there. Come up here. See, that was relatively painless, wasn't it? Almost done. Just got a couple more cuts to make. Now we push all of our extra stuff we've cut off away so we can throw it away later. Now we've got this cutout. I have a piece of plastic. This happens to be, I had this laying on my table. It's one of those things that you put in a notebook that you can insert pages into. Page protector, I guess, sheet protector you call it. And this one was torn, so I had to fix it and, you know, trade it out on my notebook. So I decided it would make good plastic. If you've got a tablet of acetate sheets, like what we use, let's see. In this scale, I can just run it from the glue. If you're working on a smaller scale, you will need to use the toothpicks, by the way. If you've got a sheet of, you know, like some leftover window plastic sheet from a dollhouse kit, that would be great. And then we just glue that in. Now we should let that dry, but I'm going to go ahead and glue the rest of this together. So now fold this up, and we will put glue here and here. You need to think about where your tabs go. Here. And if you're working on a smaller scale printy, especially like from Jim's site where he has multiple sizes, if you're working on one of the small ones and you can't figure out how it's supposed to go, I find sometimes if you look at the bigger scales, like the Barbie sized ones, they seem to make more sense. You know, you kind of get a better picture of how it folds together. And normally I would let each step set up a little bit before I went to the next one, but you get the idea. Fold this up and we let it dry, and when it's all dry, it'll look like that. And these are cool because they open. Oops, my glue came undone. I'll have to re-glue that part later. They open up and you can put your donuts in. As soon as the paint's dry on our donuts, I'll go ahead and put those in and show you how it looks. Alright, the donuts are all dry. I actually ended up putting a coat of clear Mod Podge onto the tops just for a little added insurance that all the toppings were going to stay on and that everything would have a nice even sheen to the top. So we've got our boxes. I made the Dunkin' Donuts box from the Paper Minis kit, and those 6 donuts look really nice. There's the camera. Really nice in that one. And I also have some to go in this box. The Barbie size, we have a nice assortment, and even the 18-inch doll size. I think they turned out wonderfully, and I think the dolls will really enjoy having a special treat this morning for breakfast. So remember, if you make this, if you make some donuts in any of the scales, or maybe you'll challenge yourself to an even smaller scale, send me a picture of it. If you haven't found us on Facebook, be sure and do that, because you can share pictures on the wall there, and it's a good place to ask questions, get some extra help, or ask for a video that you want to see. So until next time, I'll talk to you later. Bye.